My name is Daniel McKinley, and today we are going to look at the 1 to 6 player game Tiny Towns by AEG. The way you play Tiny Towns is very simple. You begin with 1 to 6 players. Each player will take one of these boards. You lay the cubes out here, and you will lay out a different card for each type of building. We'll talk about the buildings later on, but I want to show you how the game itself works. Also, each player will have one of these purple buildings, and they will have a tower available for them. These are normally shuffled up and dealt out to the players. On a player's turn, a player will pick one of the resources. You have glass, stone, wood, wheat, or brick, and they will call it out to the rest of the group. Let's say I want to build stone. All players will grab a stone and place it somewhere on their board. It's up to them as long as there's not already a spot or not already a cube there or a building. Then it becomes the next player's turn. They get to choose any resource they want. Let's say they build wood. When a player has a configuration that matches one of the cards, they can choose at that point to build the building. For example, I have a stone and a wood, and that matches the stone and the wood needed for the well. So if I wanted to build a well, I would simply take these off and build the well in one of the two spots that it took up. As long as you're building the same materials, it could be flipped and rotated as long as it's showing in the same pattern. So for example, the cottage has to have red, blue, then yellow. This goes until all players have placed their buildings and their cubes and there's no longer any possible moves. Once that's done, all players total up their score, and the player with the most points wins. So now, with the basic idea of the game working, let's talk about how these actually work. The well was a good example that I had earlier. This said you get 1 point for each adjacent blue building. In this example, the cottage. So if I had this and these together, then that would score me 1 point for the well itself. The cottage will get you 3 points for each one as long as it's fed. So now let's talk about feeding. The farm, building one farm anywhere, will feed 4 buildings anywhere in your town. Now I should clarify, you can have multiple of these buildings as well. The chapel will give you 1 point for each fed cottage or blue building, in this example. It does not matter where it is. Taverns, the points are based on how many taverns you have constructed. The more you have, the more points they're all worth. The theater scores points for each other unique building type in the row or column. Also, the more points you get. And then the factory. The factory is another interesting building. When you build this, you're going to choose one of the 5 resources. For example, let's say I pick stone. Place it with the factory, and that means you can use stone as something else. There's a lot of different options just in the base setup alone, but there's also these purple buildings. Each player would have a unique purple building, and it has a different form of structure that it shows. Each one has its own ability, so I'll let you discover this on your own. As well, there's a number of different building types for each of the different structures. So the replay value is pretty much endless. For more details on that, the rulebook does a great description of all of the buildings that need a specific information about it, and you can consult the rulebook for the specifics on those. Overall, that's how you play Tiny Towns. As you can see, it's a really smart game, but incredibly easy to pick up. This game is available now from AEG, and if you want to try it out, come by Zia Comics in Las Cruces, New Mexico, where we'll be happy to show you how to play it.